Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Lüning, Horst Lüning. I'm the senior taster of Whisky.com. This is my son Ben, and today we have a live tasting of the Glenmorangie, or part of the Glenmorangie range of single malt whiskies.
Yes, and usually we have a beginner's live tasting on the second day of Christmas, but this year I couldn't really agree on the bottles, so we actually said let's do a Glenmorangie live tasting, as it is actually a very beginner-friendly distillery. So just let me introduce or do you want to do the sequence in which we try it first?
Yeah, so Glenmorangie has close to a dozen different whiskies you might get on the shelves or see on the shelves of the dealers. And we start with the Glenmorangie 10 years old in the orange card box. And if you look carefully to this and compare it to what you know about Glenmorangie, you see this is the new design of the bottle. It appeared in 2022. And the 10-year-old is the flagship and is sold million-wise. And the next one is the Sauternes cask finish. Glenmorangie Sauternes is a French sweet white wine from the region Bordeaux. And this is the old appearance. There we do not got the new design, so I think the batches had been so big that they waited until the old batches are sold. Next one is the La Santa, the red one, which is a sherry cask finish. And the last one is the Quinta Ruben, a port wine finished Glenmorangie. And the ages are 10 years, 12 years, 12 years, and 14 years. So this is the oldest in this sequence. And yeah, well, I try to arrange them in sequence, not in ABV or in age. Well, in age it fits, but I would try to put them in sequence from the taste or the intensity the whiskey acquired in the casks.
Yeah. So let me start off with the distillery. What are we trying? Glenmorangie. It's actually a Gaelic name, so pronounced on the second syllable, so it's Glenmorangie. So it's Glenmorangie. So like that, yeah, Glenmorangie. Glenmorangie comes after Glen means valley, and the Morangie burn is the small creek that flows through this valley, and it actually means small valley of deep silence or rest or something like that. And it's a very northern distillery. It's actually in the very, very northern parts of the Highlands. Here we see it on the map. And you see whole of Great Britain with a lot of cities down there in England. And then we have Ireland on the left. And at the very top where we see the still, this is where the Glenmorangie is located. So it's very, very, very remote. But it's also a very popular whiskey, and it has a production capacity of 6 million liters of pure alcohol per year. And this is very, very much for a single malt distillery. So nothing goes into the blend industry. If you have 6 million liters of capacity, usually you provide something for the blend industry. But this is all for the Glenmorangie single malt whiskey. Also in 2022, they actually revealed investment plans of £10 million to enhance even their production capabilities with a new production bottling line, also 16 new big warehouses.
Which will double the capacity.
Yes. So I'm not quite sure how much they always did the 6 million liters of capacity that they have at the distillery. Maybe they produced less because they didn't need to produce that much, and they have a strict policy of giving out no alcohol. So probably they're gonna up their production a little bit, and in 10 years, 20 years time, we'll have a bit of a relief of more supply of Glenmorangie whiskey. Yeah, so the worst whiskey. You want to say something about the first one?
Yeah, Glenmorangie used to fill their casks 3 times. And when I visited the first time, the Glenmorangie, I think it was in 1995, they had different color codes on the casks. So they painted the ends of the cask in different colors. And then they knew this is the first, the second, the third fill. But then, 15, 20 years ago, they changed from 3 fills to 2 fills to increase quality. And at that time, I think they stopped sending whiskey to the blenders. They concentrated on their own malt whiskey. And the 10-year-old is completely matured in ex-bourbon casks, first and second fill, a refill. And it costs in the lower 30s. And it's 10 years of age. And to the stills, how they look like and how the distillate is being made and what's special in that will come later. This is an entry malt. We will find it nearly everywhere on the shelves of bars. So this is a must to have tastes in a lifetime.
Yeah. So as we're talking about it, this tasting actually replaces our beginner tasting. The Glenmorangie, the original, the 10-year-old, is actually a very, very beginner-friendly whiskey. It only has 40% ABV, and it has very, I would say, mild and friendly taste. So if you have someone who says, whiskey much too rough for me, and I can't really, that's too hard for me, then have him have a dram of Glenmorangie, the original, and he might change his mind.
Yeah. So exhorts. Good evening. The packaging, bottles and labels look a bit weird to me. Not sure if I love them or hate them. Well, the bottles changed 20 years, 15 years ago from the standard liquor bottle to these more roundly shaped bottles. And this was a clear win. They are better visible on the shelves. That's Glenmorangie. But the labels hadn't been that visible from far away. So now they increased the size of the letters, and now it's more modern, more frontal, more direct for the recognition of the whiskey. I like that.
We actually have someone in the chat, Antonio D. I have the tasting set of Glenmorangie. So write down what you smell of the Glenmorangie 10. We always love that we can try it with our viewers together. And
Yeah. So this is very clear, very fresh and fruity. And I had it the first time, and then I just had the fruitiness, tangerines, fruitiness, citrus, apple, pears, peaches, everything in there. Now, after having the Glenmorangie, when I went through all those Glenmorangie, there's more vanilla in it. There's more bourbon character from the cask. And this light mint characters as well there. But with the first impact, you do not have that. You have the fruitiness, typically. Yeah, it's for a 10-year-old, due to the first and only second full cask, it's quite intense.
Yeah, definitely bourbon cask character. You have vanilla, you have caramel. This is our second time we try this. We already had it in German language. And before it was much more of fresh fruitiness. The fresh fruits are still there, but the bourbon character, vanilla caramel, is a bit more intense in the second trying. But you still have nice fresh apples, fresh pears, a little bit of a pineapple taste in there. And I come back to why I actually always feel that with Glenmorangie. That's a bit of a production history or background. Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Juicy, fruity, and a lot of malt. So this is definitely a malt whiskey, a single malt whiskey. And sweetness still stays on the tongue. Yeah, good one. I like it. Not too complex. Friendly.
It's nice. It has a nice round touch to it. It's not too attacking. 40% ABV. You have the vanilla, you have the caramel, you have a little bit of oak now that I have it the second time. You have a little bit of oak in there, a little bit of a spiciness as well, but not overwhelming. So it's a really nice, light and fruity whiskey. Yeah, Antonio D has that as well. Very fruity and light. I would definitely characterize it as a fruity and light whiskey.
Yeah. So today we have to taste 4. So we have a little bit to hurry up, but
Yeah, and
typically,
I have tons of information.
yeah, typically whiskey isn't there to rush.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I will continue and put my glass down. You might as well just enjoy your whiskey a little bit longer and just enjoy the show. So I've actually visited in 2018 and in 2021. You were in 1995
And in the 2000s.
2000s, around there.
3, 4.
Yeah, in 2018, I actually took this picture here, and this is the distillery. On the left, you can see that's actually the Northern Sea, the Atlantic. And this is officially has been founded in 1843 by the Matheson's brothers, John and William. They actually founded it in 1843, but they just began production in 1849 because they had a little bit of a problem with the money. They didn't have that much money, and they had to be a bit more creative with the distillery, but they managed to get it running. Up until 1931, the distillery was open. They probably changed proprietors. They changed a lot with the distilleries. In 1931, the distillery was closed for 5 years, and probably also with the war. On the left here, you see a long building. That's actually the still house where the stills are. There are many of those stills. At the middle, that's the entrance of the visitor center. Behind that is a little bit of kind of a museum, or like a bit of a history tour and tasting rooms. And to the right, we have a production building, which is for the mash tun and the
There's
wash
always
bags.
the steam from the
Yes.
from the mash tun,
And
and
in the
always
very
the smell. Yeah.
Yeah, in the very middle of the picture, you have a chimney where the steam is being produced. And on the very left back, you have 3 warehouses, or 3, looks like 1 warehouse with 3 roofs in there. Behind us is also another warehouse. In the very, very back, you have more warehouses, and there are even more warehouses around on the campus. Yeah, and on the very left side, you have the railway, which was one reason why they then took off, because you couldn't really supply anything except maybe by ship. They had a little pier probably there.
Yeah, it's quite flat, a lot of tide.
Yeah. Next up is the water. This is one of the main ingredients for whiskey. Water is very, very important. You have to have low iron water, and you have to have low mineral water. And the water for the Glenmorangie distillery comes from the Talogi Springs. The Talogi Hills are where the springs come from, and they have a pipe and they get the water from there. You can actually go to these springs, and if you're lucky, the springs are active and you can actually see it bubbling out of the ground.
On this picture, you see the Morangie burn, which passes through the distillery and goes to the sea. And then there is the bridge where the railway passes by. In the back, you see the warehouses of Glenmorangie. Probably one is the still house. Yeah, very nice place. And the sea is just behind.
Yeah. Up until 1977, they actually had malting floors. Now they actually get their malt from Inverness, from a big malters. And they always use unpeated malt. Peated malt is that smoky. Actually, there's no peat inside. There's actually the smoke from peat fire in there. But we don't have that in that whiskey. It's unpeated, so it's more mild and more, yeah, a friendly whiskey, yeah, I would say, for beginners. The next picture is the Catball Estate. This is actually the house of the estate that actually built, or not actually built, but actually run the distillery for a long time. So to the left of it, you can see, maybe you can still see a bit of ruins. So that was a little castle there of the lord of the region, and later they built this estate. And yeah, the Catball Estate is now kind of a house for special guests for the distillery of the Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy brand, where they send people there to experience the brand. And I actually was able to stay in there. Very nice, very good food. And they actually have contracts with the local farmers around there, and they get the barley that is grown in the fields. You can see at behind the distillery. And two of the Glenmorangie whiskey bottlings are from this Catball Estate, the Signet and the Catball Estate. That's the name of the whiskey. They are from this region. And this region, when you stay there, you actually have to do a walk. That's kind of, you really have to do the walk. And you find the Catball Stone. It's called the Hilton of Catball Stone. It's a mixed stone, I would say. It's actually not an original. The original is down in, I think it's in Edinburgh, in the National History Museum of Edinburgh.
It's broken.
And it's broken, and they made it again, and refurbished it or redone it. And this here is the
Christian side.
The Christian side. It's actually kind of a mixed stone. It has Pictish symbols and Catholic Christian symbols. This is the Christian side with, you can guess, the big cross. It's a Kildalton cross, very British, Gaelic, Nordic Christian. And if you look closer to the cross, the wings and the top of the cross, they actually do have like vortices in there, and this is Pictish. And at the very back of the stone, you have the big signet, very vortices in there, and they represent. You actually don't know much about what they represent. The historians think they represent like the sun and years and I don't know, time or something like that. And the back is very interesting. There's a big discussion going on because there's a queen with the hunting parties and warriors pictured there, and you can see that there is something behind the queen, or maybe it's just the shadow, but there is a nose behind the queen. Some people say it's just a shadow, some people say it's a nose, and some people say, yeah, there is the king behind the queen, obviously. But some people say, yeah, it's the queen and they just had a queen and that's it. We don't know. It's just a very nerdy historian discussion going on about this Hilton Stone of Catball.
Yeah, so if you have a closer look to this card box here, you can see this carré. This is they took it off with a thin paper and coal from the Catball Stone and put it here in gold, and this showed it. This was done when the new appearance of the bottles came out in the 2000s, I think. They did it a very big marketing campaign, and this is very fine, very thin, and then they changed it to a more simple design, which better fits to the bigger letters, to the more simple appearance of the new bottles. So
I actually like the new bottles, except for the symbol.
Yeah, but from a marketing point of view, they don't fit. This is the old card box.
The marketing is like, I don't know, the pigs are like 800 before Christ. Yeah, maybe it's a bit old, but I liked it.
The time jump. And if I remember right, the Nectar door had an age statement on it in former times. Today, it's gone. I think it had
Is
been.
it?
There was a question how old the Sauternes cask finish or the Nectar door is, and I wasn't able to find an age on this.
Really? Oh, okay.
So
I thought they all 12.
the Sauternes is a white wine from the French region of Bordeaux, and they're the proprietors of Glenmorangie. Today, the company Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, they own a Bordeaux, a chateau, a vineyard, and there they have white grapes, and the white grapes are cracked so that they spring open, and then they are spread on hay in former times where air could circulate so there's no mold in it, and then the water evaporates in the southern French climate in late summer or early autumn, and then the sugar increases relatively. And this very, very sweet white wine is this.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't write a age statement on it, because the distillery of Glenmorangie, they all do the 10. So everything is done 10. And then they do finishes. So when you have a 14-year-old, it's probably 10 years bourbon cask and 4 years Quinta Ruben, and then 10 years bourbon cask and 12 years of, what do you call it, La Santa, I don't know, the Oloroso. And here they usually should do 2 years of Sauternes cask. Maybe Sauternes was a bit overwhelming and they didn't want to write 11 on it.
and 10 as well is no. And here you have to say,
Oh yeah, maybe
it's more expensive. It's 46% ABV. It's priced well around 60. So it's more expensive due to those rare casks. It should be the Jacques-Dichem wine yard where they get the casks from. I don't know if they have enough casks from there. I don't know. So this is much more intense. A big aroma, darker, more oak, resins, dates. The oranges are, well, candied probably, orange peel, fruity, very big aroma.
Yeah, it's definitely, it has a bit of a feel of the original in it, but it feels more lively, I would say. It has a bit more of a fruity flavor to it, more fresh fruits to it. The other one had a bit of fruit in it, but this one has still a little bit of vanilla, but feels more like a honey note, apple note, mandarins or oranges, or I don't know, mandarin. I'm gonna go with mandarin, and like sweet citrus fruits.
There was a comment, a smoky Glenmorangie, really an official bottling? Yes, every year there is from Dr. Bill Lumsden, there is a, how it's called, a private bottling, or
Really? There's a smoky Glenmorangie?
and they used, I think, casks in which smoky whiskey was matured before. So there is a hint of smoke in it. Of a real smoky Glenmorangie, it wasn't. And they are not able to do that because they will contaminate the complete process. So every vat, every vessel would be added with those smokiness. But we come to this experimental distillery, and I think they will have it soon.
Maybe.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Now there's orange peel, citrus peel, there's Christmas spices, vanilla, there's a little bit of ginger, nutmeg, roasted almonds, very big, and a aromatic oakiness in it. Probably the French casks are typically Limousin oak, which is a native oak from France. And this Limousin oak have a different taste than typical European oak or American white oak. Yeah.
It's a bit more hefty than I expected. When you have it in your nose,
46 ABV.
it feels very fruity, very light, elegant. When you have it in your mouth, first you feel the fruitiness, the elegant honey, you feel the mandarin, but then you swallow, you feel more of an oak note, you feel more gingerbread, allspice, that kind of nutmeg, and it has a bit of a spicy touch to it. Light spicy touch.
There's a question from a no name, a space, a blank. How many years the Nectar d'Or is matured in Sauternes casks? We can't tell you. It's not told. It's not published. And typically you have those 10 years of maturation of the standard casks. And when the casks do not give the full aroma, and if they are a little bit weaker, that's my personal opinion, they will move it to the finishing process where they can supercharge them with different casks.
Yeah.
So
Alfred Fuchs, I think a few lines down, says my box says 12-year-old.
No, you have an older one. Yeah.
The old one says 12-year-old.
Probably now they're 11 and don't dare to write it down.
And I think the very old ones say portwood finish. I think back in the day they used to write portwood finish on it, right?
Not on the Nectar d'Or.
Not on the Nectar d'Or. The sherry and portwood finish was like the names before.
Yes.
Before they had all the fancy marketing names.
And the Gallic.
Gallic ones, yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, I have to continue, otherwise we run out of time. We actually have been a bit late because I ran out of time. So yeah, next up is the mash tun. First, we talked about the water. That is very important for the distillery. Here you mix the water with a coarse grist of malted barley, and the water is actually heated and it washes out the starches from this malted barley, and enzymes within the malted barley split up the starches and split it up to sugar. So what you come out is a very sweet, starchy water, and yeah, you have 46,000 liters within that mash tun, and they actually do 3 washings or mashes, and the third one has so little sugar content they can't use it, so they reuse the water within the next batch for their washing water, for their mashing water, and that brings out the maximum of sugar, so you don't want to waste anything. That goes then into the wash bags. The wash bags is the wort, that's what you call the mash that comes out, and you mix it with yeast. And then you let it rest in these 12 wash bags with 46,000 liters of capacity for 60 hours, and it starts bubbling. Here we have a blade that's actually cutting down the foam to have it not foam over. After these 60 hours you have a beer with 8% alcohol. What is very interesting about the tours at the distillery, you can actually book tours there for, I don't know, a dozen pounds, or maybe it's now 20 pounds or something like that, but relatively payable, I would say. And you can actually try this wash then, this beer without hops. And it's actually very, very fruity, and you will feel a bit of a tropical fruit note to it, mango, pineapple, these kind of flavors, and that's always what reminds me when I try the original. I have that wash in my mouth again because it has so much resemblance of that wash. And when you do the tour, you will find that out as well. When you have that 8% beer, you actually fill it into the wash stills in the still room. Here you see the still rooms. There are actually 2 more stills right on the sides, which you can't see. And then that means they have 12 stills in total. On the left side, you have the wash stills, 6 of them with 11,400 liters of capacity. On the right side, you have the 6 spirit stills with 8,200 liters of capacities. And then you have coils inside these stills that heats up this beer. It bubbles up and it goes through the neck into a condenser and is condensed in the first step. And then you have the second step as a double distillation.
Yeah, and those stills are the highest all over Scotland. And from the lower point of the manholes, you see, up to the line arm on the top, it's 6 meters. It's how many feet? 18 feet.
Like 12 feet or no? No, more, much more. 18, 20? 18, yeah, 18. I think 18 feet.
20.
20?
20. So 6 meters, and it's very high, and you have these reflux bowls, the tight constriction between the pot and the reflux bowl. So it's very stable vapor column where the alcohol is very well separated, so you have a very smooth alcohol. This is part of Glenmorangie.
Yeah, and this is actually done not like on by design. They wanted to have that, but it's actually done by not, was it greed or like well I think the Scottish are meant to be greedy, right? Or like penny pinchers, yeah. So they couldn't, the Matheson spreader couldn't afford a real still. So what they did is they went down to London and got one I think one or maybe a pair of very, very old gin stills. They actually don't know how many they got, 1 or 2, and then they installed these for their whiskey, and these are actually very classical gin stills from London. Obviously, they were successful, and they built always these stills exactly as they had during the former times. So this is now part of Glenmorangie. And Glenmorangie always plays with the giraffe. If you have the bottle, you can see on the back you have a giraffe. That is actually, the stills are so big as a giraffe. They are nice way of separating the alcohol. Unfortunately, also limits a bit their production capacity. But as we've heard, 6 million with 12 stills, you can produce a lot of them. But they're still produced manually as well, as they are a bit traditionalist around there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this was the production, and let's get on with the La Santa.
There was a question of muscle man. Where do we have those glasses from? Well, I designed them myself, and I let it produce in a big factory. They're crystal glasses, and unfortunately, we do not have the chances to ship them abroad. So they're just available in Germany and Austria, and probably in the near future in some countries more. But we once shipped them to the US, and they charged us $40. So it was really, really expensive.
Like a block of paperwork.
Yeah, of course. So that's not easy, red tape work. But they are the ideal glasses from my point of view. So next one is the Glenmorangie La Santa, 12 years of age and 43 ABV, and it's priced around 50 euros, dollars, pounds. So in the moment, the euro is a little more than $1, and a few months ago, when the ECB didn't increase the interest rates, the euro fell, so the dollar bought more, the euros, so around 50, wherever you live. So Glenmorangie is available nearly on every bar shelf. It's one of the very, very big exporters, single malt whiskey. and they export it quite early. So it's a real global brand. Yeah, that's the sherry cask matured whiskey, really. And it says that they have Oloroso and Pedro Jimenez sherry casks, meaning Oloroso is very fruity. I have those fruits, dark fruits in it. And Pedro Jimenez is a not fully fermented sherry, so you have residual sugars, and the high strength of the sherry of 20 ABV is achieved by adding brandy from the same grapes, so that there's a residual sugar and will stay in the staves of the cask, on the inside of the cask, and the fresh whiskey will tear that out. So there's a very, very sherry note in it. There's a big fruity note and a light sweet note in it. Yeah.
I like it that you have that typical Glenmorangie distillery character, vanilla, caramel, fresh fruitiness, tropical fruitiness, and then you pair it with the Oloroso and the PX. The Oloroso, so fruity, PX, fruity and sweet, and you get that nice combination. You have a bit of a dried fruit character, red fruit character, very, very round, a good amount of sweetness in there. It feels warm, wholesome, and it's just very intriguing and very inviting, very nice.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
The start, sweet, juicy, and then the cask kicks in, spiciness coming through, little chocolate coming up, no bitterness, caramel, juiciness, probably a little bit of honey, the sweetness, long, warming, and this one just has 43%, and it doesn't need more. No, it's just perfect. The 43, massive.
It's nice. You have that beginning where you have the fruitiness, you have the sweetness, you have the grapes, you have the dried fruits, and then the spiciness adds up. You get a bit of oak, you get a bit of a European oak touch to it, a little bit of a bitter sweetness. It just everything you feel like it's really a Christmas malt with Christmassy dried fruits combined with spiciness all around as of gingerbread spices, I would say, like a classical gingerbread. I like it.
Yeah.
But I expected it a bit lighter. So it is actually just a 10 plus 2 years in Oloroso and PX cask, but it just gets
Adds
a lot.
up, yeah.
It adds up, yeah. And now you've already hinted a little bit about the lighthouse. There have been a lot of news about the lighthouse.
The lighthouse, typically for me, is a tower with a light on it.
Yep.
On top of it for guidance for the ships.
Yeah, this kind of works with reflection. I think this lighthouse works with reflection. It's kind of looks like a little bit of like a Manhattan tower, glass building. A lot of people like really that kind of building and that kind of environment. And when you look inside the building, you can actually see there are stills in there. And it's actually a 2-story building with a complete distillery in there. And it's a small distillery. And it opened mid-2021. This is like December 2021. They still had some fencing, still did a little bit of building. I think they were just in commission. I think they were at the end of distilling water in there. When you commission a distillery, then you distill water to find any leaks, look if all the processes work, if all the temperature sensors work and all that kind of stuff. And this distillery is the aim of this distillery is to be flexible, to be an experimental distillery where you can change everything. You can change everything, and you can change temperatures, you can change durations, you can change pressures. You can change kind of the shape of the distillery through a water cooling. So you can do everything with yeast and barley that you get from the estate. And so it's an experimental distillery. When I was there, they actually told me they want to produce Glenmorangie spirit to have a reference point. So they changed everything. They set everything to be exactly like Glenmorangie and adjusted it so they get the new raw spirit as they get it of the other stills. And then from there they can actually change and have a look how they can make anything different and how the magic of distillation actually works, because you know pretty much everything about distillation except how does it affect the flavors. And that's exactly what you want to have. Yeah. But let's go back to the normal whiskey that we have in our glass. I ended off with the stills, so you get a raw new make whiskey from the center cut, and that is a bit watered down and then put into cask into the dunnage warehouses on site. The dunnage is classical warehouse. Back in the days, they didn't build the warehouses so tall, so they were flat warehouses where you can only stack 3 casks high, and if you have the big sherry cask, you only do 2. And they do have racked warehouses on site, so a bit higher, but most of the warehouses we actually saw there are pretty Danish style warehouses where you have stamped earth floor and thick stone walls, and that is the old traditional way of maturing Scotch whiskey. It doesn't have so much effect of temperature on the whiskey, so the wood doesn't work as much, and it's a very slow kind of way of maturing your whiskey. Most of the casks are American white oak casks or bourbon casks, and since 2010 they actually don't use casks more than twice for quality. In other distilleries, some people use it 3 times, 4 times, and with the blend industry, you said they actually go up to 9 times. They have a different way of doing that. It's mass produced. This year is more of a premium whiskey, and the next one is kind of the one that is here standing out with 14 years.
Here are a few comments, and Christoph Malloy, maybe they can use this lighthouse to make peated spirit. I think they will do. So Dr. Bill Lumsden, he's always experimenting. And when they started this one bottling where they used casks which contained smoky whiskey before, so that the Glenmorangie had a little bit of peatiness in it, people were eager to learn more. And I think one of the first will be that kind of stuff, and they will issue it and you have to pay a lot of money. Really. Mm-hmm. So next one is one of my favorites, probably one of my top 10. In former times it was one in my top 5, but I tasted so many whiskeys in between, so there's always...
But I'm not quite sure if you've tried the 14-year-old.
No, I don't think so. I had the...
so maybe it gets up again into the top 5.
There had been a 12-year-old, Quinter Ruben, so this one is matured in ex-port wine casks, in ruby port wine casks, and this is uncolored, 46% ABV. Have a look at this wonderful color of the whiskey. So this is extremely natural.
So there was a rumor going around that all the finishes are becoming 14 years in age. Maybe the rumor got leaked too early, and maybe it just takes 2 more years for all of them to come out in 14 years. But we'll see. I think they will bring back, if they bring out the Nectar in the new bottle, they will go back to 12 years. That's why it's just so late, because they don't have the stock for enough 12-year-old Nectar. Yeah. They have to wait.
Yeah, so this one is intense, much more intense than the other three ones. And there is an intense orange note on top. There's a little chocolate note in it. Big fruitiness. Nuts in it. That's typical for those sherry port wine casks, which you fill, or before you fill and you have a smell on them, on the bung. There's a big nuttiness in them. Yeah, some woody notes, sandalwood. They say candle wax, but I haven't that note, not at all. Yeah, your turn.
For me, it's a bit. You do have the normal Glenmorangie below. It's getting a little bit faded, but not faded, but overwhelmed by a nice fruitiness. For me, it's also a bit of a bloom, bit of a flowery, rosy, silky touch to it. Maybe a little bit of orange, so it's a bit more. It's not as sweet and upfront, fruity, tropical fruity, but more a bit settled, rosy. Smells quite nice.
Antonio D. Ruby port is more likely, more like red wine compared to tawny port. Yeah, I had been in September, October 21. I had been in Portugal, and I had been at the Douro Valley and all the fine red wines up there. And then at the town of Porto, you have these big warehouses where all the port wine matures, and there's a smell in all the streets there. Wonderful. Yeah.
No.
Cheers.
Cheers.
First is juicy, friendly, a little oily, silky, and then spiciness kicks in, and big spiciness. Tangerine, oranges move to tangerine, a little sweet. Nuttiness, of course, and then it's a long aftertaste with a little chocolate in it, oranges in it, a bigger aftertaste than the others have. Very, very good.
Much more settled than the others. So you feel that it's older, and the Quinta Rumen, the port wine, very nice. And the redness in the glass, it just, sorry, but it feels a little bit red in your mouth. You have that bit of a grape notes in there, but also bitter sweetness, dark chocolate, oak, bit of European oak in there, nuttiness in there. Some sweet notes coming through here and there, but the touch is a lot different from what we had from the original. So I think you had the sequence we had here in the distillery was pretty good.
I know all of them.
Yeah, I mean, like very light, and it goes into bitter sweetness and intensity, just in a sequence.
So really it was just a question to put the Nectar d'Or in second or third place, because it's 46% ABV. Probably you could turn them around, but the La Santa has a distinct cherry taste in it, and that's more than Sauternes casks may deliver to the whiskey.
Oh, I like it. So, if you had that in your glass, or if you know the whiskeys, then please feel free to have a little bit of a what is it? Discussion, Abstimmung. Voting. Vote. Yeah, we're gonna have a vote about what was the best one, and let's think about. Actually, changed my mind from the German taste.
So first have them, before we give our count, they have to decide themselves which sequence, but probably not only a few of them
You
have
can't
the
actually do the
whiskies.
sequence. You can only do best. You can't really go first, second, third, but you can do best. But we'll see pretty much the sequence there.
So if you key in the numbers of
Yeah.
the whiskies, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. So maybe let's have a little bit of a
15
ad-
votes. Yeah.
a little bit of an ad time. And yeah, next up, our next live tasting will be on the let's have the date there, on the 27th of January 2023, so next year. And this time it's gonna be Highland Park. It's gonna be at 8 o'clock Central European Standard Time. Where is it gonna be? At Whisky.com/live. There you will also find the event coming up next, when you visit in a few days, and then you click on the event. I think now it's a bit down. Then you will find out when it actually will air in your
You said
time zone.
whisky.de, so
Whisky.com.
the English, we have whisky.com, you said whisky.de.
Did I say?
So
Okay.
it's at 2000 whisky.com/live.
/live, yeah. If you are actually speaking German, then you can go to whisky.de /live at 7 o'clock. We always do German and then English. Yeah. But,
So 27
yeah,
votes.
Highland Park it's going to be. And yeah, we're going to go back to, yeah. So you want to, oh, it ended Quinta Ruben with 77%. So a bit more than last time. Then La Santa, then Nectar, and then the original. And actually, that's the sequence that I have now. For me, it's the Quinta Ruben, La Santa, Nectar, and original. I actually like the La Santa this time a bit more because what was a bit more fruity.
So first time I had them, I had the Quinta Ruben, of course, one of my favorite first. Then the original 10, because it was so vanilla, so malty, so fruity and original. Then the La Santa and then the Nectar. But now I changed my mind. First is still Glenmorangie.
Quinta Ruben.
Quinta Ruben. Second is the 10-year-old, then Nectar, and then La Santa. And
You're really fond of the 10-year-old, huh?
yeah, and then there was a question, a comparison to the price. So for me, best price performance has the Quinta Ruben.
Still, yeah, for me
Yeah.
as well.
Then the 10-year-old, then the La Santa, and last in is the, because that's my personal feeling. I do not like
for
those
me, the
Limousin casks.
For me, it changes a little bit because the original for that price is really, really, really nice. Yeah. So, but the others, they are actually for kind of the brand of Glenmorangie, they are really good in price. I think the 18-year-old is where the prices at Glenmorangie really start to rise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they call it rare or very rare or extremely
something
rare
like that,
or something like that. But the 18, that's a really good one. That's really also really good whiskey.
The Quinta, the
It's
Nectar
expensive.
is a little bit more expensive. So it's 10 more than the Quinta Ruben. That's well due to the extremely rare Sauternes casks, where you can't get your fingers on. As I said, they have their own vineyard or chateau. It's the Jacques Cam. Probably I don't really know, but I suggest that the casks come from the Jacques Cam vineyard, and that's a super premium, where the bottles counts in hundreds of dollars each. So it's really expensive, and so the casks are very rare, and this might rise the price. But we will see when they come in the new design, which age they have and which price they still ask for. Probably they increase the volume and the prices may lower. Probably.
Yeah. So this was it with our Glenmorangie live tasting. If you'd actually like to go more into depth with Glenmorangie, there is a Glenmorangie distillery video where I go actually to the Talogi Springs and I have a tasting pretty much, I think, the same bottles as here. I'm not quite sure if we have an 18. No, I don't think so. I think we have the same ranges here with the former distillery manager there. And I can tell you everything about everything in the production there. This was just a glance of the production. So if you'd like to know more, go to the distillery video. Yeah, that was it. Do you have anything to add?
No.
So that was it. Thank you very much for watching.
Yeah,
The
best wishes for the next year.
Oh yeah, best
Don't
wishes.
forget that.
And we'll see you on the 27th of January with the next live tasting. Thank you very much and good night.